Poland, fire Piat, fire these neocons, right? End all those careers. So we're following this Houthi stuff. It is, of course, not a good thing that Saudi Arabia is attacking a nearby country. We have to point to the fact that the Russian economy is much better than had been thought. All the imperialist commentators last December into January were gloating about the tremendous collapse, the tremendous cataclysm, financially and economically, that was about to overtake the Russian Federation. And lo and behold, it has not happened. It doesn't seem to make any difference that the price of oil has gone down by half. Russia is managing. And one of the things, it's what we found here in the U.S. Under Jefferson's embargo, well, if you're not trading with foreign countries, you're going to have to manufacture it yourself. So there is now a significant wave of new startups inside Russia producing things for tangible physical production. And it's also the case that the pro-U.S., the CIA, has attempted to overthrow Prime Minister Gruevski of Macedonia a couple of weeks back now, and that also failed. So the machinations of the CIA not going too well. We are following the coalescence of a group of pro-Russian states in Eastern Europe, and we're looking forward to that situation. Now, Jerry Brown, the governor of California, as we switch to a little bit of domestic economics, Jerry Brown has correctly called attention to the drought in California and to the lack of snow, which had been a reliable source of water in previous decades. Now, he wants to have people stop watering their lawns and everything, and that's all fine. We had that here in Maryland in the mid-'90s under Governor Glendenning. Right? You were not allowed to use a hose to water any lawn or flower bed. You had to come with a watering can, and that obviously limited it. Right? You couldn't leave your sprinkler on all night. Okay, fine. But, of course, the Imperial Valley, the food production, this has to be maintained. Here's what I would say to Jerry Brown. First thing, Governor Brown, stop fracking. Fracking is a primitive, dead-end technology. This technology is more than 150 years old, I think, in its basics. It goes back to earlier than the U.S. Civil War. What a wretched old technology that is. That's a dead end. And anybody who invests massively in that is going to lose his shirt because it won't hold up. It uses tremendous amounts of water. Stop fracking by executive order, Governor Brown. Now, the second point is, of course, you've got Los Angeles and San Francisco and all these other big cities. You've got to start desalinization. For desalinization, you've got to have nuclear reactors. You've got to have fourth generation, high temperature, pebble bed nuclear reactors. You can have them floated in as nuplexes along the coast. You park them and you can get them going. I think the Russians are in a position to market some of these nuplexes. Buy a couple of those and you'll get some water going to the people in Los Angeles and the San Francisco Bay Area. You've got to do this. Another point where the eco-freak, radical environmentalist ideology, including anti-nuclear, right? It's against coal and it's against nuclear. It's for windmills and solar cells, but that is a bad joke. If you put those together, that is a net loss of energy over the life of the investment. You've got to have some nuclear power. Now, the longer term, which we would like to call attention to, is, of course, the NWAPA, the North American Water and Power Alliance, from the Parsons Engineering Company in the early 1960s. And it essentially looks at the Mackenzie River in northern Canada, huge amount of fresh water that's simply going into the Arctic Ocean and being lost for the needs of human civilization. That river can be reversed, comes down through the Rocky Mountain Trench. There are certain pumping stations and other things. It rehydrates the Canadian prairie provinces all the way over to the Great Lakes, and it rehydrates the U.S. Great Basin and extends far into northern Mexico. It allows for a superb agricultural renaissance in northern Mexico. These are the great works which the future of humanity requires. And now we have NAWAPA, we have Canada, U.S., Mexico, we have NAFTA. We want to have NAWAPA, and we have NAFTA. Well, under NAFTA, it's time to gear that up and treat that as a resource that can indeed be transferred interbasin. Doesn't have to stay in the same basin. Otherwise, you're presiding over the suicide of human civilization and millions of deaths. Look, you want to see what happens to a country where there's no water? Yemen is such a country. Yemen is such a country. By contrast, Gaddafi's great man-made river means that Libya will thrive as soon as... Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. This is once again our Good Friday program that you'll be hearing Easter and during the week thereafter. Now, we want to keep up with the Greek situation. Many strange rumors, a lot of black propaganda, a lot of disinformation flying, especially from our old adversary, Ambrose Evans Pritchard of the London Daily Telegraph, right? The son of the grandson, maybe, of Sir Edward Evans Pritchard of British intelligence in Kenya. He says that the Greek government is secretly printing drachmas and is going to default very soon, and it's going to default towards the IMF first, and then hope to use that to bludgeon the European Union. But again, that's a very unreliable source. So let's get the real story from our good friend Michael Chiotinis in Athens. Michael, welcome.
Hello, Webster. Yes, very unreliable indeed, because I don't think that there's any chance of Greece going to a new national currency, because that would be a catastrophe for Europe, mostly.
Correct. So where are we now? I guess everybody is reporting that the Syriza government submitted another basis of compromise to the European finance ministers, and they rejected it again. Is that correct?
Yes, it is correct. They are trying to find an agreement. An agreement is still not in sight. I think they will continue once again to push things to the last moment in order to blackmail the Greek government into making concessions. And they are trying to use a financial asphyxiation as a leverage tool against the Greek government. They know that if banks go, if there's a panic on the bank run, there's a big chance that the Syriza government will just surrender to whatever these Eurocrats want. Now, we have a big, it's on Holy Thursday, the Good Thursday, as you would call it, of the...
In other words, okay, that's coming up on the Orthodox calendar in about, 12 days?
Next Thursday, there's a big repayment that Greece needs to do to the IMF. It's to the tune of 450 million euros. So we have two government ministers were quoted saying that if no loan installment comes until then, an agreement doesn't come and the loan installment doesn't come, then the Greek government will fulfill its obligations towards the Greek people and then ask for a postponement of the money they should repay to the IMF. Specifically, the Minister for Internal Affairs, Mr. Voutsis, was quoting, saying that there needs to be an understanding with our partners and creditors so that the failure to repay the IMF on April 9th isn't interpreted as a credit event. Now, the government spokesman denies that there's any chance of defaulting on the IMF. And my view is that they won't default on the IMF. The government is going to do whatever it takes to repay the IMF because we are talking about the IMF that, ironically, has been the good cop in the whole story, the bad cop being the European Commission. And also, I think that because the IMF is in the sphere of influence of the United States, they don't want to break this kind of mutual understanding with the American side, because they are the Americans. The US has taken the side of Greece in this Greece versus Germany confrontation. So they don't want to do anything to spoil this relationship with the US. And I think that there won't be a default on the